I mean, the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Roll call, goes all seven members. Does anyone have a conflict of interest? No? Motion to approve the consent agenda? All in favor? Motion to approve the minutes of our last meeting on October 15th. Second by Vicky. All in favor? Have one item under municipal officers, the appointment of the election warden, Annette Redmond. Motion to that effect.
You want to appoint Nan Redmond for the election warden?
Second. Bill, second. He figures you should have said being the spousal unit.
Because of all the riches that are going on.
Yeah.
So, regarding training, has Nan been to the training? This recent?
Yep, in September, we sent everyone.
All in favor? 6 to 0 with one abstention. All right, we did have an item on the original agenda for the appointment of ballot first. It turned out we did that last April. We'll move on to open session. We do not have a public hearing scheduled this evening, but as usual, there's an opportunity for the public to speak in open session. Anyone from the public or audience would like to make comments or remarks? Sure. Please identify yourself.
Yes, my name is Dan Hall. I inquired with the town office about town-owned properties and the process to start that conversation and how to purchase them.
Mhm.
And they suggested that I come here to talk to the select board to get that conversation started.
Okay. A particular property in mind?
There is, out on Route 7, actually next to Tracy and Nan. That's one in particular, but I would just like to be, made aware of any and all properties that are available.
Any comments on that?
What we do from time to time is we have, tax card properties that we advertise for bid. And we have a process where we notify abutters, directly in writing, but then we do, advertise in the newspaper, what the time frame is and how to express interest in the property. But if I'm aware of somebody in particular that wants to be made aware when we do a property, I can, make sure you get one of the letters too.
Okay, so I was told that the process has changed recently with a new law that's in effect, that the whole process is different.
It is different, but it starts kind of the same way I just said, where we come up with a list of properties that we want to, move forward with. And, we do have to spend a little bit of time, in the new, I guess, under the new regulations to make sure that the process is, is correct. But it starts off with, is developing that list of properties we want to meet for.
Okay, so what's my first step?
I would say,
This is my first.
I think this is your first step, to let us know what you're interested in. And I think it's our next step to decide, when we're, prepared to, make properties available. Typically, that's something we do when, I think, in spring and summer versus, winter time where we have more people in the market for real estate. So it's just historically, it's been something, spring, summer, everything that we do. But I think we need to take some time to talk about procedurally, that we'll make sure that, given the changes, that we're, doing things correctly.
Well, we typically wait for a critical mass of properties to.
Yeah, we usually don't do one or two. Usually we've done, 7 or 8 all at once before. We don't have to wait for that many, but we do.
You know how many we have right now that might fit the bill?
I don't think we have very many, but I'd have to check and get back to you.
Okay?
Well, I was gonna say, and it's printed on the agenda when we are going to make a decision, so you want us, you need to see it before then, because you would want to be part of the bidding process.
Yeah, and when we're ready to bid, and the notification period is when I would make sure that, you know, we are aware that we'll take our house there. And we're accepting bids.
So is there, given the fact that I'm severely interested in what's available at this point, is there any way to move this forward a little bit? Knowing that you have somebody interested?
I think that's the question.
I would not be opposed to that.
Yeah.
If we have something on the hook,
Right.
well, really,
Yeah.
Are you familiar with the pricing of a particular property? And I'm not sure, is it town owned or town acquired? Yeah.
Well, I mean, if it's town owned, it's typically not considered for sale, we probably own it for a reason, but if it's tax acquired property, or we don't wanna we don't wanna retain for ourselves, that's what we put out to accept bids on.
But for example, on Grange Street, the town has put our resources in that demolishing and cleaning up, et cetera.
Right.
That goes as part of the bidding, minimum bid, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not even sure what property you're thinking, but.
No, yeah, I wanna know, what's there, what's the starting point, what's the town have invested, and then, where do I,
So we need to be open to change it, make sure the policy is good.
Yeah.
So we should get that, schedule something.
Yeah, yeah.
We do this through the administrative.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out it would still be an open bid. You would be one of many. I
Yeah.
hope.
okay, so we'll try to move that along through the committee process, see how many properties we might want to list for possible sale at the same time, and then
So what's
send that forward.
there's another committee that you're talking about that?
Well, we have subcommittees of this board that act in particular areas of town operations.
Okay,
The committee that has oversight for the sale of tax buyer property would be administrative.
so when does that committee meet?
Well, as needed, so
Okay.
as you.
Okay. Okay.
And the first order of business will be to sort out the changes in the law, irrespective of the properties themselves. We have to just make sure that our
Right.
processes, that will go out the legal review. So there's a couple of steps before, we can get to putting the properties up. Should just, and this is an unusual thing, the law just changed.
Yeah.
And we haven't, because we don't normally do it at this point, it hasn't come up as a priority.
Typically, we put an ad out in the, through one means or another, usually often in the newspaper, saying we have a list of tax buyer properties people can bid on. We give a date certain for the bids to come in, and then we scrutinize those and make the award at one of these meetings. So,
Now,
I think
is
it
there-
can happen quite quickly enough for people.
Yeah.
If you need it like in 30 days, that doesn't move that fast.
No. But, in the same breath, is there enough people here on that committee to be able to say, okay, this could happen in 1 week, or listen, Dan, this isn't gonna happen until December?
This is
And that might even be ambitious depending on how long it takes us to get legal review and get our procedures in place. So we're talking months versus days or weeks, realistically.
It would have been quicker if we didn't have to do the.
Okay, so here's another thing. I started this process several months ago. I called the town office. I told them I was interested. They said, okay, we'll let the select board know. So I know Tracy, I said, hey, heads up, I called the town office. Let me know if somebody says anything to you. A couple months have gone by and nobody said anything to it. Nobody brought it up. Nobody at the town office that I talked to said anything to the select board, apparently.
Right.
So now it's like, I'm 2 months behind now. So anyway, any, anything you guys can do to speed it up, I'd appreciate it.
Other public comments?
Just, you know, there are probably many people who are interested in the properties you're interested in, so I think we'll move on it as soon as we can. And we'll have an administrative committee meeting sometime within the next month and review the new the new law. And then we'll be prepared to put these properties out to bid.
Other public comments? Yes, ma'am.
I'm Amanda Stewart with the Scottish Regional YMCA. We just had a meeting over at Central Hall Commons. So I was just here to give an update on how that went, you know.
Good.
We had 104 community members in attendance at the meeting. And we had filed on Friday another request for Old Town Orono Board to give us some sort of a response to the acquisition of the endowment and the facility, and they are open to looking at other options at this time. We did a news report on Wednesday, that came out Wednesday night. They did comment on that, and their comment was just that they weren't looking at anything until after the closure, which isn't what they had originally stated or said in their Zoom meeting and everything that we were all part of. From the meeting tonight, what we gathered is that everyone is in agreement that we will continue to fight and push forward, and try really hard to retain this facility and the endowment for this community. The biggest things we're doing right now is making sure that we express to the media, to the public, social media, to their board, how shameful this is to our community and the members of the Y. So we're really just encouraging everyone to letters to the editor, sending emails to their board, making this as public as possible at this point, making sure that everyone's aware that this is completely against everything the YMCA stands for with their core values and the way that our members, our staff, and our community are being treated with this. Two of the biggest things is obviously back to the securing the endowment, that people from this community put their money, their heart, their soul, their lives, making sure this didn't happen, and then securing the facility for this community to have this important building. We have moved forward with building a new nonprofit organization. We have a tax EIN number. We are officially the Piscataquis Area Community Center. You have an email, so it's paccmain@gmail.com. Sending out all kinds of updates on that. So if anybody would like to be added to that update list, just please send an email to the paccmain@gmail.com and we can add you to the update list as we know anything. Right now, moving forward, on Wednesday night, is a board meeting at the Old Town Orono YMCA. It's supposed to be open to the public. It's at 6 p.m. A lot of people are going there. A lot of people are planning on showing their disinterest in letting Orono have control of this facility here at Dover-Foxcroft. They're talking about doing some sort of protest if they don't allow us into the meeting to speak to the board. So just kind of encouraging that.
I have a question.
Yes.
What's an endowment?
Endowment is, it's sort of, so a collection of money from one person, multiple people that were given just to the Piscataquis area, to the YMCA, this particular facility. They passed away. It's earning interest in the main, the main community foundation, so it's earning interest for us. And it's essentially set there as emergency money. So if for some reason we can't pay the bills, we can't pay the mortgage, that money is there for us to use to save this facility at any time. And when this originally all happened, we asked Old Town what their plan was with this endowment. There's almost $700,000 in it. And their plan was to pay off our $350,000 mortgage with the endowment, sell the building and take the profit. So.
Okay.
Any questions? Excuse me, sir. The board has. This is a public comment, so it's not a question and answer between members of the public. Go ahead.
Yeah, Amanda, thanks so much for all your work. And I guess I just have questions about what else do you feel like the town needs to be doing? Or the select board would be doing?
So communication with the board in Old Town, I think, is really important. Them understanding that it's not appropriate what they're doing. They were There was a few questions that were asked during the public Zoom meeting and that we've asked as individuals as to like, did you reach out to the town? Did you reach out to the academy? And, oh, absolutely, we had meetings with the town, we've had meetings with the academy. They said they had no interest in the facility purchasing it. I've had conversations with people since then that have disproven that to be true, so I think honesty is one of the core values of the Y, so that alone is breaking that core value tremendously. So I think having the board reach out to either, letters together, reaching out directly to that board of directors would be helpful in them understanding like that was not what was happening. The general consensus is that perhaps the CEO has gone a bit rogue and he's sharing information with the board that's not 100% honest and trustworthy. And so making sure that the board is aware of what's actually going on, because he's the one feeding them the information based on what the operations are doing. And when I reached out to the board, that's always there. Well, I can't help you. I can't get involved in operations. So my question to them was, well, then who reins in this CEO that's not doing what we need him to be doing? I haven't been able to get an answer because it's just the executive committee who's the head of this board. So I'm very confused about myself.
Do you have legal counsel?
So Jason Brochu has, he has secured legal counsel. The attorneys have been talking with each other, which is how we've been able to get any answers because they wouldn't communicate with Jason directly. They wouldn't communicate with this board that we have set up for the PACC. They won't communicate with me. We've had lots and lots of members send letters to them, asking questions, just giving comments, and no one has received any response.
I was at the meeting earlier and the question I had, and I'm not sure you have the answer, but is the merger agreement and or document public?
So it's supposed to be because it's a nonprofit. I have been able to get my hands on a copy of it, and I've recently just sent it to Jason. I got that today. I sent it to Jason, he's sending it to the attorneys. The thing that we're not being able to get our hands on right now is the bylaws, which I guess once the merger went into place, these bylaws were written, and those are the rules for the new organization, including both entities. And I haven't been able to see that yet. I was told that it was given to the prior board members that were part of the merger, but I've spoken to all three of them, and none of them have a copy of it.
Any guidance from the national Y in
So,
terms of?
yep. Jason Brochu reached out directly to Y National, kind of told them the situation. He spoke directly to the CEO. It was passed down to a couple different VPs along the way. They seemed very sympathetic when he was talking. And the only response we've had back was when the attorneys told us no on our offer for acquisition, was that Y National has said that we can't rent the facility because it's against their policies, and that Mr. Brochu is not to contact the board directly anymore.
Was it at the meeting, was it publicly stated that the town has diverted the funds not to Old Town Y, but to the new nonprofit?
That's, sorry, I'm not quite following. So I know when we were here, you had decided that the funds would go to the new entity.
Correct.
Once that was established, obviously. And then when we did have a meeting, that was discussed, and I think it went out publicly when people were watching the meeting, after this meeting as well.
But I mean, did the 104 people get informed that the town funds are not going to Old Town, but rather?
That, it was not brought up.
I know, it wasn't.
Yeah.
Well,
But it's been on,
here,
it's been on
Yes.
television news, yeah.
well,
Okay, I made sure I shared that information as well with people, so I've let all of the towns been very supportive and very much on board with helping us with this new entity.
Other I believe, thank you very much. Thank you. Other comments from members of the public? I got Steve over here.
Oh.
He's
Curious, how involved you guys were in all of this procedure and what involvement have you done so far?
Zero. We weren't informed about this at all. It hit us just as much of a surprise as everybody else.
They did make a call to the town manager.
And, yeah, let me clarify that. It's just not true that they reached out to talk to us about what was going on. What they did was they asked to meet with, head of school, Ann Shorey and I, and there was really discussion about that they were having some financial issues and looking for some ideas on how they might address that. you know, kind of the same collaborative discussion that the Y has been willing to have with us for the last 35 years. You know, and the discussion was around, well, we didn't see much fundraising going on last year, you know, we didn't see a dinner dance auction, we haven't really seen anything. So what about those things to try to, you know, make sure that, you know, the finances are where you want? There was no discussion about closure or, you know, or really anything that we heard. This blindsided everybody. And it's just very dishonest to try to say that they reached out to the community. If they were serious about reaching out to the community, they would have had the Zoom meeting that they had, and they would have put it out there as, hey, this is an issue, and we've had a few months to try to, you know, collaborate on how to avoid this. But they chose not to do that. They chose to make the announcement, blindside everybody, and then have it doing and talk about the value. So, it's just very unfortunate that they're trying to, even suggest that they reached out to the community on this whatsoever.
I just want to give her a chance to, ask a follow-up question if she did return. All right, well, we're ready for that. Yeah. Go ahead.
What got upset me, I'm Brian Campbell, I was sitting in on the Zoom meeting and they actually threw Jack and Shorey, I guess the other guy's name, under the bus and said that this Scott Wilcox said, you can pull the Zoom up, we have a copy of it. And he said directly that they had a meeting with him and that they had been told and were asked not to put that out to the public and was thankful that they kept it quiet. I mean, that's a direct lie, and I really feel strongly that this board should send an email or a message to every one of their board members informing them that that was a direct lie that he told out to people, throwing your town manager under the bus. Because it was wrong and it was a lie. And it's a lie that's documented. But that's my opinion. I believe in truth. The one good thing this has done is it's really brought a large amount of this community together in a very positive way. And that's very impressive as to all the negativity that's been going around for the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, at least this is bringing the community together. And we know not to listen to everything that we hear on Facebook now too, don't we?
Yeah, we learned that quite a few years ago.
Yeah, that's great.
Other comments from the public? Steve, you had your hand up your door.
Yeah, this is kind of a minor one.
Not related to the YMCA?
No, it's not really.
Okay, that's all right, that's allowable.
A few months ago, I think we talked, or at this meeting, we were talking about you hired an energy engineer to do assessments or something of buildings. And my request is, can we do something about this lighting? If this room is the tech center, the leadership, this is embarrassing. I mean, I'm a facilities guy, and every time I come in here, it drives me crazy that we have this type of lighting in this. This is the center of technologies in the town. And I think a couple months ago, if I remember right, you folks engaged an engineer to do energy stuff. I'm just curious when this is up to be fixed.
Jack, you can get these lights changed before you leave.
Well, we wanted to go through efficiency Maine and get a grant that would cover pretty much building wide. And we just need to see, what that opportunity looks like to try to get, be nice to get, you know, the funding that's out there to do it. That's all. But yeah, these are, as you know, very inefficient and, as is almost all this building, so.
Very, very 1960s style. Not the greatest ambiance.
Well, it's actually the color condition. It's cool white, warm white, it shows we don't care.
Yeah.
And we should care.
Other comments from the public? Yes.
Sean, I just wanted to inform the board that the county budget advisory committee has finished our meetings. I can't give exact figures because there's still a union negotiating going on between the sheriffs and the county. But we're looking at somewhere in the $6.5 million, you can take a couple $100,000 depending on the negotiations. Not a significant increase by any means. The county, but the valuations of the whole state have gone up, so that's kind of affected, what the towns end up paying the county. But the program grants were funded, at certain levels. But that is also subject to change because those negotiations between the the sheriffs and the county could, move that needle depending on what the commissioners feel like, so. But our part is done in regards to giving them the budget, and they just have to vote on what they feel like is necessary.
Were any funds included for the YMCA?
No, because it's too late in the grant cycle. I informed Amanda that if the new organization wants to apply, they would have to do it starting in, I believe, in July. They send out the grants, so that would be something they could get funded for 2026 if they want to apply for that this year. So, but the commissioners are in support of funding that, assuming you guys are able to get hold of the buildings.
For a year from now.
Yes, that's because the funding cycle is already going through for 25 and 26.
Any other comments from members of the public? All right, I'll close the public comment session. We'll move on to public comments from the select board. Who would like to speak? Cindy?
Ongoing questions about the why and are those advocates perhaps, are they like tapping the endowment now and drawing it down?
We have no idea.
So I guess I just remain really concerned and wonder what else we should be actively doing in support of this resource.
If you have suggestions, I'm in. I really don't know. I've had such little communication with them during my entire employment with them. And then once Andrew left, it was none, because he was really my only tie that I had to Old Town at all. So I don't know, like I haven't had any access to financial information, I haven't had access to guidance, leadership, anything.
Yeah, one statement I can make is a couple of members of my family are involved in the legal aspect of this. They both happen to be lawyers and have looked at the agreement. And the agreement is not a strong agreement in any way. It's actually very poorly done. So it gives the local YMCA people very little leverage to hold Old Town to account. I think that's a kind way of putting it. That's not what ultimately one of the lie right now. That just was a lack of foresight. There's a reason why you get attorneys involved in documents like that, and why they didn't do that. I hope it doesn't come back to bite us, but it is not helpful.
It's also though, within the why, one would assume trust and honesty and good faith. And that's what's perhaps most
Respect,
distressing.
responsibility, honesty, and caring. They're the four core values of the YMCA National and every YMCA organization. You nailed it.
Yeah, when you have Christian in the title of your organization. Yes, sir.
It's just for Cindy, but at the meeting, it does seem quite strong that Jason Brochu and his team of litigators, lawyers, and committee and ex-board members and people around him, they're going pretty hard and they're moving as fast as they can to secure the money and the building. And that team seems to be, from what I heard, and I was way out the back, it seemed like a fairly positive, forward-moving thing, but you all keep talking about the national, and Donna Hathaway did mention that it's been the national-wise opinion that rural YMCA's are not their strong point, and that really we may not be able to look for their support. So don't get your hopes up that the national level is gonna come screaming in to say, we'll fix this. It seems like it's gonna be local and whatever.
The way it usually is.
And that team
I don't know why we're.
sounded to me like it's fairly strong. I don't know how positive we may end up being, but it sounded, they were finger on the pulse and throttle.
Yeah, it would also seem like if any of us know any of the board members, or influencers in the Old Town Roanoke community, we ought to be in contact, so.
anyone that's in the email list, that's one of the things I've been sending out and asking for people to reach out. So if you just send an email and I have your contact, I can send you a list of the board members with all their contact information. And absolutely, I have all the board members and all the press that have been helping us as well, so contact from each of the different media outlets.
Thank you.
Other comments from select board members?
On that topic, I'd like for us to request that their board come and have a conversation with us. I'd like to hear from them where they stand board to board. I mean, this is a huge impact on our community, and I mean, they probably won't respond, they won't show up, but what little we can do to at least have an open, honest conversation, maybe we do have a road CEO that's doing things that maybe aren't quite up to snuff. And maybe they'll realize that there's a lot of negative publicity stirring up coming their way. And that may be a good way to have a good conversation about being positive going forward, because they are a nonprofit. They have a board that relies on, really, as we all know, donations and donors and endowments. And as the economy gets more and more difficult, donations go down. So I would love to extend that invitation if the boards want to do it.
It's true, Joel, but endowments are growing because the stock market
Yeah.
is. So they're making a lot of money on our endowment.
Other comments from select board?
Well, and one of my questions at the meeting was, do we know how much the Old Town Y has used of their money to support our local Y? And again, that's an unknown. So, you know, the screen is, oh, we put millions, and it's like, well, show us. So that, you know, potentially we could say, hey, if you put $5,000, let's come up with $5,000 and make it even, but give us back our lifeline to the water. But it's nice to say that face to face, and I'm also a little disheartened that an individual said that she has been blocked. When she sent her email, it was blocked. So that's real good open communication.
Other comments from the board? Steve?
Just, I guess shifting away from that. It looks like Fidium has largely finished their work on the poles. I had early last week, or the week before, I guess, I had somebody do the installation from the pole to my house, not inside the house, I don't have service yet. But, I'm not right in downtown either, so I haven't seen as many Fidium trucks running around as I have before, so I'm pretty hopeful that they're getting close to the time where they can switch on the service and start installing inside the houses.
So they've given you a drop, means you've already put in your interest for.
Oh, yeah.
the services. So yeah, because the way I understand it, they have to, they run a main line and then they have to splice into like maybe the side street. And then it's ready to, you know, the person up. So sometimes you have to check back with them to say, you know, are you ready to start service here? And then it will just be wherever you are on the other.
Yeah, that's when, so I got no call ahead of time, more than a few hours, that he was gonna be working in my driveway. I should have took down a tree for him. It was on my list of things to do, it just got done a lot faster. But yeah, my understanding is it's all poles first, all to the house, is the second step, and then the third one, that somebody comes in and installs from the inside of your house. And, so anyway, I'm encouraged, this process has been moving a lot faster than I had expected, which is great, because they said it was gonna be the end of this year into 2025, and I said, yeah, it's gonna be the end of 2025, and they are.
They're telling, the update they gave me was December 13th, they expect to be done with all of the extensions.
Yeah.
And so it'll just be, you know, doing the drop for the people. And I also assume for the people that have already put in for the drops, those will be done, but, and they'll just be installing for people to do the rest.
Good. So some of that makes sense because the work started on the dump road was getting less and less and less. And the other day I noticed it's been infiltrated with a whole lot of reels of cable, so they must be bringing in the new pole for the house cable.
Yeah.
And this, I wondered why we got more wire
Because, yeah, it's on.
chain.
Other board comments?
Question, about early voting. Are we seeing a lot of voters?
Yes, we are. We're seeing a lot of it. I don't have numbers, but it's been very busy, in terms of absentee ballot requests, people just voting early. And the last day to do that will be this Thursday. Some people assume it's Friday before election, but it's actually Thursday. Last day to request, an absentee ballot or come in here and vote early will be this Thursday.
Our ballots in a fireproof box,
Yes.
wasn't that today?
Couple days ago.
Yeah. Yes. And Alcina will send out notices as she's been doing.
Right, I'd like to close board comments and topics before we move on to the agenda. We do have one item that Jack was asked to add to the agenda, and that would be a bridge and culvert study. We'll place that as item D under new business, moving the town manager's report to item E. Moving on to committee reports, Protection Committee did meet, and there was a meeting at Mayo Hospital in Northern Light about the town's EMS plan. Jack, you did briefly mention that in your town manager's remarks. It was a positive meeting. Jack, I was both there along with Fire Chief Brian Laudette. We've asked them for a letter of support for municipal EMS services, and they indicated that they put that on their board agenda this week and saw no impediments to that.
Yeah, and, there's a lot of details to work out, but, as far as one of the main EMS requirements is that we have a letter of support from the hospital that we transport patients there. It seemed pretty straightforward that would be able to be provided by Northern Light, and expected that to be official sometime this week. But then there's just a lot of other details and that our service and Northern Light will just work out in terms of protocols and things, but that's a continuing process.
Okay. Let's move on to the new business. The first item is item A, Village Partnerships Initiative Project Update. We have representatives from both the Maine Department of Transportation and Dover-Foxcroft sitting in the front row here to give us an update. So go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jared Farnagolette. I'm the Region 4 and 5 planner with DOT and the tribal liaison and the project manager. And I'm going to throw Jack in front of the bus here and just say, we're going to miss you at the department. We've really enjoyed the years of service to your community and the relationship that we've had with Jack from, several levels, both from bridge to planning to, our maintenance and operations. So we've really appreciated the service and our relationship and wish you all the best in the future. And also we're going to throw Mr. Shorey in front of the bus too, to say that we're actually really excited about some new additions that consultant's going to take us through, Randy here, which includes some eligible improvements to the front of Foxcroft Academy. And so I'll let him just get into his presentation. If there's policy and process questions, I'm here to answer those questions. So you're on, Randy.
Thank you, Jared. Good afternoon, everyone. Randy Dunn with Doral Palmer. Here tonight, I think you're all probably up to date pretty much on the Village Partnership Initiative that's going on. What I'm here for tonight is basically to just give you an update of where we are, where it stands, what you can expect, when you can expect it, and kind of go through the process. I'm not going to get into the weeds. We do have a public meeting that is scheduled, and we'll get into the weeds then. But I do want to, like I said, give you a brief update of where we are, and go through that process. So obviously, next slide. The study team includes Doral Palmer, a CO landscape architects. They were here for the first public meeting, and obviously the municipality, you folks, and then Jared with DOT. So those are the ones that have kind the Corps that have been, taking the lead on doing this process and going through this process. The study area is pretty much, we'll start over on the west. It's down by approximately Dunkin' Donuts and kind of comes up by the academy, comes down into the town center, goes up North Street to approximately Summer Street, where the post office is, comes down, goes over East Main Street, pretty much over to Essex Street. We actually extended that a little bit, and it now goes down to the bridge, across Essex Street. And then it comes down South Street to approximately, Pine Street. So that's the study area that we've been looking at. Next slide. The draft purpose and needs statement, the purpose of the draft, of the purpose and needs statement is it kind of sets a benchmark so that when we're going through the process and we're looking at, what improvements we want to do, we reference the purpose and need and say, is it meeting the purpose and need and the goals that the Maine DOT and the municipality have set for this study? I'll read it rather quickly, but the purpose of the study is to identify a range of implementable alternatives to improve the safety, mobility, connectivity, accessibility, and placemaking for all modes of transportation, both now and into the future, and that will encourage economic development. So that's the whole purpose of the project is really to make things safer, for all modes of transportation. The needs of the study include improving safety within the study area, controlling excessive speeds, entering the downtown, and providing better connectivity between the key origins and destinations, including the parks, natural resources, public spaces within the study area, improving the geometry and operations at key intersections, and providing for improved access management. So we're taking a holistic view of the whole study area. Can we make things safer? Can we improve access? Can we improve accessibility for pedestrians, bicyclists? Just basically make it better. That makes people want to kind of walk and bike and travel and go through the whole downtown area. The study scope is really kind of what we just went over that was in the purpose and need is corridor safety, accessibility, placemaking opportunities, traffic calming, pedestrian connectivity, review the access management as we're going through the corridor, pedestrian and bicycle accommodations, landscaping, lighting, wayfinding, amenities, and improve the economic development. Make people want to stay in the downtown. The schedule for the project has been, we had a kickoff meeting back in February 13th to kick the project off. We had the initial public meeting on March 27th, and I think some of you were there. Great turnout, great feedback. We had plans laid out on the tables, and people put stickers on things that they liked and didn't like. That was spectacular. We took those plans back. We looked at them in detail, and that really kind of gave us direction as to, what are people looking for? What do they want? Where do they want it? What do they like? What do they not like? So that was a great exercise, and it really helped us a lot. The core group, the study team, had a safety audit and site meeting. That was back in June 13th. As you probably know, there's 3 bridges within the study area. There's one on Lincoln Street, one on Main Street, and one on Essex Street. Those are all kind of in different stages, if you will, of development. So we've been working closely with the Maine DOT Bridge Group and trying to incorporate what they have so far. And we've also been sharing what we're proposing, or recommending, so that they can incorporate, bits and pieces of, what the municipality wants. We had a meeting with, Foxcroft Academy on October 10th. I'll kind of show you a picture of one of the plans for that. Great meeting. We think we can improve some access management down in that area. So that's great plus. Obviously, select board meeting is tonight. We anticipate having a final public meeting on November 12th. It's gonna be right here. Hopefully we have as many people as we did at the initial meeting. I encourage everybody to come and offer their input and see, what their initial input, has resulted in. We expect to have a draft report out, sometime December, January. And then after that, we'll have a final report, January, February, in between the drafts and the finals and all of these plans. Obviously, the municipality and the main DOT are looking at the plans, looking at the reports, giving us feedback. And then we make the revisions based on that feedback. Next slide. I'm not gonna go through the whole plan set. I just picked out a few select slides, and I'm not gonna go into detail. We'll do that at the public meeting, but I did wanna kind of give you an idea of, what are the plans gonna look like? What are the types of things that you can expect from the plans? And, when can you expect it? So, next slide. So, we were just talking about Foxcroft Academy, and this is their entrance. Well, this isn't their entrance now. But this is just one of the alternatives. We looked at, several alternatives to improve their access management. Other things that you'll see, that are consistent throughout the plans, you'll see, some paths, some, multi-use paths. You'll see sidewalks, both sides of the road. You'll see things like bump outs. You'll see crosswalks. It's not shown on this plan, but it will be shown on, the future plans. Lighting, vegetation, parking, additional parking. All of that is consistent throughout the whole study area. So again, purpose is to get people to walk, to bike, giving them ability to park so that they can access things that they want to access, while also trying to slow vehicles down. So trying to make it safer for vehicles and all modes of traffic. So we've been working with the academy. This is just one design. I won't go into it in too much detail, but it's intended to improve the access management along this. And Jared can expand on this if you'd like, but these are things that can potentially get included in the study area and included for design purposes. Next slide. This is coming, give you orientation. Here's the post office. This is North Street, Lincoln Street. Again, same theme, if you will, with bump outs, crosswalks, parking, sidewalks, both sides of the street. Again, trying to improve the area so that it slows vehicles down, makes people want to stop and walk and use the area, not just drive through. There's some bump outs at strategic locations, to help improve, sight lines, for instance. If you come out Summer Street and you try to look right, you'll know right now, there's vehicles there. I did it tonight and couldn't see a thing. So I just gave the gas and hope for the best. But that's the sort of thing is we want to make it safer. we wanna improve the walkability, the bikeability, just improve the whole thing. Next slide. Here's your Main Street Bridge. Again, we've been working with the DOT, and the Main Street Bridge is kind of at its initial stages. So they're looking at what we are proposing to see if they can kind of blend what they're looking for and what what the plans are, and to see if they can incorporate some of that. Again, consistency, channelizing, this intersection it's a large intersection. It's a little difficult to kind of maneuver through. We heard that a lot. Doral Palmer actually did a previous study, for this downtown area, and we incorporated a lot of that, a lot of the stuff that we heard, the feedback. So we've incorporated that and continued it forward, trying to improve on it, and try to make the intersections, a little easier to travel through, if you will. One of the initial recommendations for our first study was to buy the building and take it down. It's already down. So, that was great to see that actually happened. So part of what was in that first study actually came to fruition. Again, we're gonna expand on this. There's gonna be, Aceto Landscaping is gonna give some really nice renderings of what you can expect. It's gonna take these boring engineering plans and make them a little nicer. Next. That is it. It should be some.
Oh,
There we go. Again, trying to improve things, this area down here by the fire station could be improved.
Yeah, obviously.
I was trying to be nice. Could be improved. So we've offered some thoughts up here, placemaking, parks. You'll see that a lot of that from, Aceto Landscaping is placemaking, making places that, people wanna stop and sit or stay for a little while and not just rush through. Make it homey, if you will. So again, bump outs, crosswalks, parking, channelization, all of it. Again, consistency throughout the whole study area. So people they can walk from Dunkin' Donuts all the way down to the center, or actually all the way up to go across the Essex Street Bridge and do the walking loop, using Lincoln. We did some research on that, and that's used quite a bit, is walking, around that loop. So trying to improve that, and allow people to do that. Next slide. This is the Essex Street, to give you orientation. Essex Street here, the Essex Street Bridge is down here. So we're trying to improve that connection. Again, trying to allow people to, if they wanna go around that Lincoln Street, loop, they can do that safely. And it's, they're not taking their life in their hands. Some access management and placemaking over in this area here. Again, these are just the basic plans. These will be enhanced with landscaping and lighting and a lot more to kind of beef it up a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of the types of things that we're looking at and the reasons that we're looking at them. And what you can expect, as we move forward into the final plans for the November 12th, public meeting. Next slide. Questions? Again, I know I didn't have much time and I didn't want to get into a lot of detail and a lot of the weeds, because I know this isn't the place or time. But, you know, are there any questions that Jared or I can answer, based on, you know, what you just saw?
Good enough, that's all.
I got an easy one.
Yes, Steve.
Have you picked the time for the meeting on the 12th?
Yes,
6:30.
6:30.
Right here.
Okay, thank you very much.
I like the softball questions.
Go ahead, Rick.
Yes, sir.
My questions are easy too, and the village partnership, and that's all great, and I love it, and it all looks wonderful.
Yep.
Just making sure, and I'm sure you do, and you've talked to them all a lot about East Main, West Main, and Main Street are a major thoroughfare.
Mm-hmm.
All these wonderful pedestrian and slowing traffic down and ease of flow, and you have in mind that we need to move the traffic through here as
Yes.
well.
Yes,
Right, that's, yeah,
absolutely.
I mean,
Spoken as a man who lives on West Bay.
I do.
Yeah,
Now I can't get out of my driveway, I'm just worried that
Yeah,
we're gonna slow everybody down in Dover and they're gonna hate us. No, I'm not worried about that. I'm making sure that it's all part of
The
your.
DOT makes sure that mobility is definitely maintained.
So all those highways, those state and state aid roads, those are mobility priority corridors, 2s, 3. They are, you know, for freight, for personal traffic, we cannot reduce, level of service. We don't want to add or contribute to congestion. Everything that the consultants do, they consult the state highway design guidelines as well as the federal manual uniform traffic control devices. And, you know, where there is, you know, significant impacts, there's signalized intersections, things like that. Things are modeled, but no, we're not going to allow anything to reduce mobility on the state system. What we do like about these geometric interventions is that, you know, quite frankly, this is a great state of Maine. I don't know where people's rush is to get to. And by doing this, it helps out with local law enforcement in having to not have as many traffic enforcement details. And it does have an inducing effect to, one, slow down the traffic to prevent pedestrian bicycle hits, traffic conflict, as well as what we've seen, you know, in the communities that we've done this is a real improvement in the economic vitality of our historic downtown. So it's going to add a look, feel, and character, a really sense of place to a great town. Love Dover, love the ice rink up here. And we've also seen, you know, one of the city manager for Presque Isle actually did some research, and he was able to say that the retail occupancy of downtown Hollowell actually increased 10% after we did our village partnership initiative. So that's like an actual metric that we can say this is part of DOT's contribution to improving and contributing to economic vitality in the communities we serve. But don't worry, they're still gonna get through. Ain't gonna clog no drain.
I'll go again. Knowing that our main thoroughfares are also the major lifeline of the fire department, the police department, and the hospital. So not only do we have the load trucks not wanting to be bottlenecked and summer tourists and whatever, but it is an area heavily used by the emergency.
Yeah, everything that Coral Farmer does, they'll have a turning template to make sure that the largest tractor trailers can navigate those corners and intersections, as well as, you know, everything is going to be done to highway design guidelines to ensure that emergency vehicles have priority. So that's, you know, that's factored into it, which is why you're still going to have a wide highway.
One thing to, that I want to add to that is, just so everybody understands, there are different phases to this process. This is the first phase, and yes, we put on templates and make sure that, you know, it looks reasonable and it works reasonable. These aren't design plans. The next step would be, design plans where it goes into a lot more detail. You know, drainage, for instance, you know, making sure that the bump outs don't create drainage issues. And, you know, so it goes into a lot more detail. These right here are, you could consider them conceptual, in nature. We do our best to make sure that they're reasonable, that they can accommodate the vehicles they need to accommodate. But there are, you know, there is at least one more bite at the apple, to double check that and make sure that everything works the way it should.
Okay,
Here's
someone else.
Last one. I just want to check that the main work that we're gonna do soon on the water main that's coming from Shaw's or wherever down through town and over the bridge. That's all in conjunction with, we're not gonna rip it all up after we,
No, the improvements that we're talking about building based on this are probably a couple of years out.
Yeah.
I'm assuming. And so it's very timely that these infrastructure projects like the sewer main are done first, because that way, you're not trying to take something brand new, you know, like what we're looking at, and then having to dig.
my question is.
And so, yeah, so next year there'll be a lot going on, the intersection with South Street and, East Main, water main upgrades, and then going on West Main Street to, Fletcher Road. That's all perfect timing in terms of getting all that done before we talk about these things.
Yeah, the next phase, when we call that preliminary engineering, where we design it to basically 90% design ready to go for construction. We have utilities coordination, NEPA, that's the National Environmental Protection Act, which will also look at historic properties and historic district review, because Dover does have quite a unique historic downtown and historic district, as well as there'll be other components of review within the department. So there's many sort of steps even within preliminary engineering. That's going to be another year-long process. And then we go after federal discretionary grants to actually do the construction. So what you're seeing now, my job is to also mitigate expectations. And we are DOT, we do move at a certain pace. Probably won't see any trucks should the municipality, choose to partner with DOT and keep the process going. We're looking at 3 to 4 years until we actually can start digging things up.
Wow.
Oh. You had given the visual map from, Essex Street Bridge all the way to West Main.
Yes.
So to help my understanding, why specifically is FAA either negotiating or talking with you, and or are you offering this to other entities going down that pattern?
Great question. So with regards to Foxcroft Academy, where they do have a large frontage on the state system, and some demonstrated perhaps pedestrian safety measures, it's a public interest. We can, provide, some conceptual support to the school, with that. And, we're not saying that the municipality has to go out and construct what we've proposed. That's something to be worked out with the school municipality, but it is an eligible, project under both, bipartisan infrastructure law and, other congressionally designated spending based on the match structures, because those are in some ways considered a public way. And so our other calculus too, why, we encourage it, we have a similar project in Pittsfield where they have a similar type school, Maine Central Institute, which is a town academy that also has international boarding students and serves private students. And, I do work for the state, so I love free food. The school asked me to provide, gave me some fried food. And I got to understand a bit more about how the school operates, where they do have about, 100 to 150 sort of boarding students that they'd like to grow. We want to make sure that those students have the ability to walk to downtown Pittsfield and drop their endowment money and not do the debt on the state system. But at the same time too, I think it is arguable that Foxcroft Academy is an important component of your community, and trying to integrate that component further into the community through this larger transportation vision is something that we can support. And it does make for a very strong narrative when we do go after those federal discretionary grant applications to say we have multiple public entities working together for the betterment of rural America. So that's part of the reason and justification for it.
So Butterfields can't come to you, but can the housing and or the hospital I'm just thinking.
Yeah, it's got to be something like a school that has I mean, school buses, which are transit. We do have other programs separate from, our village partnership initiative, such as the business partnership initiative. And that's something where DOT and municipality, we can work together to look at how we can make improvements to a business's transportation system adjacent to the state system to improve economic vitality and safety for all users.
All right, so Tuesday, November 12th, 6:30. Board meeting, I mean, in my years here, we've had at least 3 separate, views of the improvements needed in our downtown. A lot of concept plans, we're unfortunately dealing with the consequences of the street grid that was developed about 130, 40 years ago. Wasn't ideal. It was great for horses. I guess, but not for the. Well, I think, you know, this is our chance to get this. I'm also interested that your landscaping firm is so landscaping, so last time you had a meeting here, Mark Seth Kimball, the landscape architects there. He's a local kid, grew up in Dover-Foxcroft, graduated from FA in 1998. He's really excited about that, to come back to his hometown, get his fingers into this pie and work on this stuff, so.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, this town needs to be committed to partnering with the Department of Transportation to get this done. Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
and we'll see you next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's no other concrete information you need from us, we're willing to work with you in whatever.
Yeah, as we get to decision points, I'll work with the new Jack, where that is, and everyone will be kept up and informed, and Jack, we'll see you around.
Thank you, Jerry.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to our next item, which is the subject of warming and cooling center. We have a plan that we're asking to adopt. Carol Blutroy from the local climate action advisory committee here. Carol, welcome.
Thank you.
We have a very long report created by our own Alcino. And no, I did not fall asleep for it.
Thank you.
I did.
I appreciate that.
I'm coming up here because I don't have a very carrying voice.
Okay.
And I want the people on Zoom to hear. As you know, the town's first grant with the Maine Resilience Partnership asked us to plan and implement a cooling and warming center. So I want to be clear that a center is not a shelter. It's not an overnight, shelter. It's a temporary place where residents can get some respite from extreme temperatures and protect themselves from possible hazards to their health of exposure to extreme temperatures. So the grant was officially concluded this year. And although we still have a few steps left to actually accomplish opening it, we hope to have it ready for this winter season. The library already offers a space for cooling and warming when they're open. The community room here in this building will be one of the main center sites. And the Congregational Church has offered to be an alternative or a backup site if needed. And the town subscribed, meanwhile, to a robust alert system called Everbridge, which Alcina has launched, and she can answer questions about that. So as far as the grant, Alcina became our consultant for this grant. She's here to answer any questions that you have about her report and her operations plan. You also have copies of the report from the Community Resilience Work Group, a group that met from February to May. Using Alcina's work and a checklist from MEMA, we customized the operation plan for Dover-Foxcroft. And the work group's report was submitted to the town attorney, Mr. John Puddle. And he answered our legal questions and commended the work group's work. He said the report was clearly well thought out and the product of good discussions and process. And my apologies to the board, I sort of dropped the ball on incorporating Mr. Puddle's advice and input into our report. until yesterday. So, I did do that, and I think Alcina sent you a digital copy. So, you can see, I put it in italicized font, so you can see where, I'm referring to, what the attorney had to say. So his last recommendation was that the select board endorse, next steps to implement the warming cooling centers in the form of a final approval of a formal policy program for town centers. So that's what we're here to ask you to do, approve the program and the policies that we have come up with. And Alcine is here to answer any questions. Or I am, either way.
Before we, have a motion, take this question.
So how many do we have that have signed up for the alert?
We're, I checked yesterday, we're at 47 so far. And I keep pushing it. I haven't checked today, but 47 have so far have signed up for the alert system.
We know we're gonna have to do some outreach around that.
The word is getting out. Yeah, well, I didn't have a lot of time to scan the italicized, information, but my question is, we're gonna approve plan knowing that we still need answers to some of those points that were raised. Am I?
No, I don't think so. I think it's pretty complete. We submitted it to John Pottle. He responded to, we had some questions about legal issues. He had suggestions that are, incorporated into that report.
So the italicized text are the changes from some of which were recommended by John.
They're not changes, they're more like additions to that section. You know, like we, the work group had some questions about what do we do if a minor shows up at the center. And, at the time, I forget her name now, but anyway, the CEO of Penquist was there to talk about transportation.
Karen,
And she,
Kara, hey,
no.
how do you look like?
Heidi.
How do you look? Yeah.
Thank you. And they had some protocols in place for that situation, so we could have just adopted those, but we wanted advice from our attorney. So he gave us advice about that, and actually it coincided with what we thought, so. It's more like additions to, you know, more detail than what we had. And I want to thank everybody who was on that work group, especially Steve.
Even Joel.
Yeah, good work.
Any questions for Carol? No. A motion to adopt the plan as presented.
I'll second.
Second by Steve.
That's fair.
Approving of their own work.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? All those in favor? Yeah.
I just want to thank the volunteers who have worked so hard on this. It's a lot of hours and it's a lot of commitment, and it's something that never would have happened without a volunteer group. So thank you.
Move on to the next item. I love the flow of the sequence here. We go to talking about forming and cooling centers for humans, and now we're talking about sludge removal, wastewater treatment plant. You get into everything at the select board.
Well, we had the roads before that.
Yeah. All right, Jack, this is the project you've been working on for quite a while, and you give the background of sludge is something that you can't just let hanging around forever, right?
Yeah, so, every wastewater treatment plant has certain technology that's used to treat the waste and, you know, and create the water that can be discharged. So we have what's called a lagoon system. And so, our system will just accumulate sludge in the lagoons. It has to be excavated. And there's no real, right now, there's no simple, easy way to excavate it and to get, you know, one of the lagoons, you've got to, you know, you've got to take the sludge, you gotta take take the system down, which you really can't do, so it's trying to work around keeping the plant running and still trying to excavate the sludge. So we're looking for something a little more efficient than what we have, but like different technologies would have like a dewatering capacity where it's automated, it's pulled out, and it's basically dewatered through pressing equipment. It's different, those are better when we talk about the different ways it's done. But for our plant, we accumulate sludge much faster than we can get out onto our drying beds. And we have drying beds, so we're not in a situation where we have no way to handle the sludge as far as final disposal, because we are accumulating it, and then we have drying beds to get it onto, but we need to do that more efficiently. So anyway, we put this in the form of a SEDS grant a couple of years ago, and we were funded to improve our process. And so we are to the point of getting an engineering consultant on board to kind of help us finalize what that process will look like, and then get that solution under construction. So we've been working with, this is through the EPA, and so they're the agency funding it. Every SEDS grant or congressional appropriation goes through an agency. So this one's EPA, Lincoln Street Bridge was FEMA, and other ones might be USDA. So all the federal funds come through an agency. So we've been working with EPA on this. And we advertised for requests for qualifications to respond to either the design phase or the construction phase, or both. And so we have one responding, Haley Ward, headquartered in Brewer, somebody we're familiar with, or has done work for us in the past. They formerly CES, so it used to be CES, now they're Haley Ward. But they're very interested in the project. They've provided us with a very responsive proposal, one that we would be able to move forward with, and keep the project moving forward.
And we did the bid from Haley Ward that includes two phases. So the design phase is for $129,340. And then a separate bid for engineering services development construction phase, and the amount there is $70,880. All of the qualifications for the firm are here. They're very well known. They're going to get only one bid. It's from a good firm.
Well, my question, is it unusual for only one bid?
It's not. We reached out to multiple companies that do sewer work just like this. We find that companies are busy. They've got a lot on their plate. The federal money that comes through for these infrastructure projects means that there's just a lot of infrastructure projects kind of in the pipeline, and so they're all really busy and really unfortunate. I feel like we're fortunate that we got a really good proposal from somebody that we know, and it could have been that we had nobody and we had to redo this. So I think it's working out pretty well for us here. We're just moving.
Other questions? All right.
I know you can't go into detail, and we're doing this because of our sludge removal inefficiencies, but can you give us a quick run on how well our wastewater treatment works? Where are we at? Or we're in good shape, but it works well, we're in the pressure. Can you give us any rundown on how well our system?
I mean, we're compliant with our requirements as far as effluent goes. Bill has talked to us in the past about seasonal challenges that he has. So in the spring and early summer, it's a little bit harder for him to achieve that compliance just because of the biological nature of the process. Coming from winter to spring, into summer, there's things that have to be managed on the biological end of things. But we were able to do that successfully. But as time goes on and as sludge accumulates in the lagoons, it becomes more challenging. So this is, this project, being able to maintain that balance between the sludge that, is in the system, and then maintain the process a little bit easier and done with, we would expect it to be less electricity, it would be, less time for, certain things to have to potentially aerate or whatever to get the same level of compliance. So there would be, efficiency and actually getting the sludge out, but also in the process itself and the cost. But yeah, we're compliant now, and we're looking ahead to make sure that remains the case.
Yeah, I found it interesting reading the proposal, as part of the development of the proposal, they did a site review of our wastewater treatment facility. They're highly complimentary about Bill Littlefield and his staff's ability to operate that. And see with a really small staff, Bill's been there pretty much his entire career. He does a really good job. This is a way to make operations more efficient. They're looking at, augmenting the aeration system, from the mechanical propeller-driven model to more of the infusion model. I'll let people who have civil engineering degrees talk about that, but it would be an improvement over how we operate and the efficiency of which we operate.
You're making me think about buildings.
Well, I know. He's been there for 30+ years. He's not gonna stay forever, but this is a big deal in his world to get this project done. It's nice to have congressional funds to do this. That way you're not putting the whole bill on the ratepayers or that are part of the town sewer system too. It's definitely the way to go. How about we get we need two motions here. One is to accept the bid for the design phase in the amount of $129,340. Okay, so you just move that, Jane is seconded. All those in favor? It's unanimous. And we need a second motion to approve the construction phase in the amount of $70,880. Okay, Cindy, and
Second.
Steve, all in favor? That's also approved. Get moving on that, please.
Correct.
All right, so the next item we have is the new one that we added, and that is, the bridge and culvert study. Jeff, why don't you explain that, this item?
Yeah, so, a few weeks ago, we, looked over a proposal to, do a gravel road study. Basically, it came from the recommendation of the Budget Advisory Committee that, we were able to put a 10-year plan together for our paved roads. And we've seen the result of being able to stick to that for, I think one into our 7th year now. And then we did one a year ago for sidewalks. And we were just starting this year, it's year one on that, but we need to do that with gravel roads as well. And I also mentioned that kind of along the same lines is we have multiple large culvert bridge crossings in town. We have 9 that are so large that the DOT inspects them. They fall under the jurisdiction as far as inspecting them and reporting on them, but they're under our jurisdiction to pay for them to replace them. We have 9 of those, but we have several others that could fall into a large scale project with a large cost. And so, I asked our engineering consultant that's done our paved road study, sidewalk and gravel roads to give us a proposal to basically help us put together a 10-year plan for bridges and culverts. Because they are by nature they're time consuming in terms of the permits you need, and they're relatively high cost. We did Grove Street. It wasn't one of the crossings with the DOT that's so large that the DOT inspects, but it was one that we were having issues with on Grove Street, and we were able to get a grant through the DEP to help us with the cost of that. But that ended up being the new Grove Street Bridge, or large culvert crossing, ended up being about a $350,000 project. And that was, right after COVID, with some of the prices increased. We're seeing Lincoln Street, it's gonna be $2 million. North of that, we had, SEDS funding, 2 cycles, go in to help us with the majority of that cost. But we know that these aren't going away. We're gonna always be needing to plan the next bridge or large culvert, project. And I think the sooner we know what we need to address and when, and we can be looking for the funding sources that take as much of that cost off of us locally, if we're being able to get funds through DOT, or funds through FEMA, or DEP, or wherever the funds, may be. So this is, again, this would be, 15 of those, bridges or large culverts, 9 of which, are ones on the state's list where we can, basically stay in tune with what they're finding on their inspections. They do it every other year. We will get an up-to-date assessment and place that inside of the 10-year plan. But again, just try to make sure that we're not losing track of these high-cost repairs or rehabilitations. Going forward, not losing track of them, and then we're planning ahead so we know how we're going to fund them.
The state does the inspections and lets us know what kind of shape these culverts or bridges are in, but, and we're asking Dover-Palmer to kind of prioritize these and put them on schedule, and Jack says, they're really expensive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you just add up all 15 of these bridges and culverts there, probably 15 million. It's a big.
I gotta say that these are the sorts of things that are easily overlooked by townspeople, as people driving over. I'm looking through this, I'm like, oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's why that office.
Yeah. Some of these, are of course on roads that are very infrequently traveled by, citizens. The Club Outlet Road, which is in
My neighborhood, yeah.
my neighborhood. But the 27 years I lived here, I've gone down the Club Outlet Road to that bridge maybe twice, I think, and I live there. So, I do not expect that most people know that it's there, and the 7 residents on the road probably do, but so I think that this is great to get it out there because these things are so easily overlooked and forgotten about, until the car falls into them. So, thank you.
Yeah, I actually heard on the news today that there's like a very large amount of money coming to Maine through the Nature Conservancy and, maybe. And so I'm looking at the ones that are identified as fish passage issues that we might be in line for it. 500 and some odd million dollars that.
Yeah, and so depending on which crossing it is, that there are priority lists for where, stream crossings are flagged as an impediment to fish, basically. And Grove Street happened to be one of those. That's why the DP was willing to give us money toward that project. And what we had other issues was just the shoulders of the road washing out and erosion, wearing on it, and there was a lot going on there. So that was just good opportunity to get toward that one. But right now we have Lincoln Street in the queue. We also have Autumn Avenue in the queue because that bridge needs work. So it's
People are aware.
Yeah, that's a substantial one.
Yeah. A lot of them, you don't even realize you're traveling, they're culverts, they're underneath.
Yeah, the Lincoln Street one was a surprise to just about everybody.
And we should say the bid amount, is $26,000. And Dover-Palmer, which is on the previous studies for us, for the roads and the sidewalks would be doing this too. Other questions for Jeff? All right, we could entertain the motion to, approve the study using Dover-Palmer and an estimated cost of $26,000.
Will we approve?
Steve, seconded by Jane. All those in favor?
Absolutely.
Jack, your town manager's report.
just a few things, and we may have hit on a few things. So we did get some positive news on the EV charging stations, that we applied for funding, for a few weeks ago, closer to getting full approval. And we had, initial approval by Efficiency Maine, but it's needs to receive, final approval through, Federal Highway Administration. which I'm not sure how long that time frame would be. Typically, once it's, received that initial approval, the project's in pretty good shape, but, we at least know that it's headed in the right direction. We, talked about the consolidated communications, they're, feeling that they're on the schedule. I do expect that, all their infrastructure work at least will be done by the 13th of December. And then I'll just do another game for the we talked about a public meeting on the villages project, village partnership initiative. The DOT has also reached out to us about having a public informational meeting on the Essex Street Bridge project that will be a year from now. The project itself will be a year from now, but they've thrown a few dates out, and it's looking like probably sometime in the first half of December. Just trying to narrow it down. But I think it's important that we have a meeting so that people that have questions about what the timeline looks like, what the detours are going to be, what the signage is going to be, whatever question anybody has about that project is going to be, have a major impact in terms of traffic flow for over a year. And we'll all have to adapt as best we can to not having one of our two main bridges in service. So, Alcina's been working on a grant that she's recently submitted to EPA for recreation economy and rural communities. This would provide the town with planning assistance to identify strategies to build our outdoor recreation economy, revitalizing main streets, and will really just dovetail with the work we're already doing in the villages and, some of the other work. I don't know if you want to elaborate on that a little bit. Alcina, just what?
Yeah, so if granted, it'll provide us with a actual planning team, federal planning team. We would have a committee ourselves, and then they basically guide us through the process. It's through EPA, but also National Forest Service, Northern Border Commission, the Denali Commission, Appalachian Commission, Southern Appalachian, sorry, that was very southern of me. Appalachian Commission. I lived down there a little too long. And yeah, so I think it would be an amazing opportunity if we did get granted that. We would, it's not a yearly grant opportunity, so they do it every couple of years when funds are available. And Bangor got it back in 2019, and I think Freiburg got it the first round. So those are the only two places in Maine that have achieved it, so hopefully we'll be the third. So yeah. Waiting to hear back from.
And when will you hear, when do you expect to hear?
It's a good question. So they extended the deadline for disaster stricken areas because of hurricanes and everything. So their deadline is November 16th. So probably wouldn't be until like probably the first of the year or maybe a little bit later for everything to be reviewed.
Any questions for Dr. Cordios?
On the EV charging at Monument Square, is that incorporating village partnerships as well, that they're thinking that's the right place, or if it ends up not being the right place, it's not astronomical to move it, or we don't?
It would, yeah, it's the right place. It's the right place, and we did incorporate that in the villages. And we also have a concept for what a redevelopment of the square would look like.
Right.
And the placement of those will be placed on the basis of that new concept plan. So, because they would not be easily moved once they're installed. It's not impossible, but you don't want to have to do that. So they would be placed so that the redevelopment would be consistent with where they are. It would all be where they should be in terms of where the new parking would be. So we've gone back to the plan. We looked at what the elevation would be, and they'll be installed, according to that new concept plan. But it'll also be accessible the way it stands now. It just may, may have to repaint the lines or something, because they may not line up with where the lines are now, but yeah, it would be usable from day one. Couple, I had a couple more, a few meetings ago, we, approved the police department getting, some equipment they need, namely, body cams and a cruiser. And I think it's fair to say that, with any luck, everything will be in service by the end of November. I guess we have the body cams now, but we have got to, get the interface, the storage interface, working so that the data can upload and be retrievable and all that, and then the cruisers just, should be out with all the changeover and the lettering and stuff, mid to late.
We're still waiting on the tasers.
Okay,
Yeah, those we were given about a 6-month lead.
okay. So that will be the straggler.
Yeah.
Okay. But we still have a few tasers, right?
We do.
The last thing I want to mention is that we have, extended hours for voter registration for, any election. We extend hours, this Wednesday, October 30th. We'll have extended hours all the way till 7 p.m. for, voter registration. They will also be doing early absentee ballot processing, that same time between 5 and 7. So that, and we've published that and put notices out, so if anybody wants to be in this room and observe that process, they're free to do that. But this will allow basically that to not have to occur when the polls close. We'll have that done ahead of time, so that we'll have a final count and a final tally much earlier in the evening, November 5th, than the otherwise will have. We'll still have to do whatever comes in between Wednesday and the election, but we'll have a big bulk of them already processed early.
Do you have any idea how many we have?
I don't, but it's on pace with, I think, some of the more recent elections, the very large number there. I don't remember that to put up here, but it's on pace with any, with the largest, request for absentee ballots that, that we've seen.
Moving on, we do have one piece of correspondence, and I'll pass that from Rita Michaud. Appreciation of our acknowledgement of David's passing and the town of Extend follows. And the girls are thankful for that. We have reinstituted closing remarks from members of the public on the agenda. The only stipulation being that any remarks relate directly to items that were on the agenda. In other words, if you have thoughts about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, that would be another venue would probably be the best place to do that. But if anybody has any closing remarks on anything to talk about this evening, now's the time. Yes,
I just had one thought.
Sure.
The request of like, what can the board do for us? Something we've been talking about is once we lose the facility on Friday, we are looking for a space to have just for like an office space so that people can come to us if they have donations or questions, or as we're moving forward, so if anyone has any leads on something we could use for just a small office space, it'd be pretty much me. That is something that we are looking for.
yeah, those central hall have to use something. Those space covered.
I think they're having people be there and stuff, but I wouldn't dare say they have space for enough. That's certainly full.
I would check with them. They do have a space that probably could operate, give you some temporary space. They're very accommodating folks.
You might be out in the middle of the multi-purpose room with a big screen behind you and.
Yeah, the only thing for the revitalization of the village partnership, I saw they're doing the bridge on Main Street. I think I mentioned before that you might want to talk to the MDOT about putting a duck bank in that bridge when they build it in their design. So if you ever do plan to put electrical underground, the conduit's in there already. Just something you might want to throw at MDOT and see if they want to do that.
That's my understanding is that's the last big project that will be taken on.
But Essex Street would be the same thing. We could
Essex
ask
Street
for that for Essex Street, which that meeting is coming up. And that would be a good time to say, you'd like to have the the conduits in.
Yeah.
To be able to
You
pull
think that
it.
meeting's gonna be December?
I think it's gonna be the first half of
Okay,
December.
good, okay, good time.
So,
Put a bug in their ear about that. Any other public comments? So, yes.
Yep, so
Got that.
with the villages project, does it end at the Essex Street Bridge or does it go any further? Or does it stop at?
it stops at the Essex Street Road. The reason they were really gonna stop it at the other end of Essex Street, the intersection of East Main and Essex, but they wanted to go down to the bridge so that they could speak to the need to have sidewalk connectivity across the bridge and over to Lincoln Street, because you all of a sudden have no sidewalk between Claire Hall's house and the bridge. You're basically on the paved shoulder.
That's what I was gonna talk about, because Lincoln Street, the pictures that is the sidewalk.
Yeah, so we went across the bridge so that we could say we need a sidewalk, to continue.
But on the other side of that, I mean, you're talking about connecting parks and walking spaces,
Right.
but Browns Mill is the biggest park in town with the most paths and fishing river access. And to walk there, you have to walk just beside the road.
Well, the other thing, besides the park you wanna walk to, that there's an interest in the redevelopment of Browns Mill and potentially to be housing units. And, if you have 50 housing units someplace, you would like to have, the infrastructure to be able to walk people from that, housing unit to the other areas where they have a sidewalk, so. That's also why it went across the bridge, is basically talk about the need for sidewalks to get to the bridge from that side. And those two examples were specifically why they extended it.
I was just gonna say, that being at the public meeting there, this is the usual thing, where to draw the line is always very difficult, because once you draw the line, but what connects to that, and then you draw the line a little bit, what connects to that?
Let's go out East Dover.
Yeah. I think we had that going all the way out to Atkinson. But, yeah, it's very difficult, and I would say that, Brownsville redevelopment, which is on the radar, at least, hopefully, that would be the right time to address it, because they're gonna have to do a lot with vehicular access and there as it is.
Yeah.
So.
All good. Carol?
Oh, I just want to update about the Climate Action Advisory Committee. Every 2 years, we help the town re-up in the main resilience partnership, and we have successfully done that, which opens us up to more no matching money grants. The next one is due in December, and James Sagan put together a poll for us, and Alcina has put it out on the town Facebook page. I
Yeah,
don't
it's
know about
everywhere.
the website, but, so if you want to weigh in, if you have any interest in, weighing in about what we should be pursuing next, please find out and take the poll.
I just want to commend Carol and Joel and Steve on that work of the cooling mortgage centers. I think that's a no-brainer. I remember a couple of years ago, we had a 50-below-degree night, 50-mile-per-hour winds, and power went out for me, and my car struggled to keep up. And I'm surprised we didn't have that, area for people to go, and to be able to have a central location such as here in the town hall for people to come, such a population. The furnace to get out or use power for extended period of time. I think that's really neat for this community, and I think it's good work that all the volunteers really got together and kind of made that happen. So hopefully, we don't have those kind of weather incidents, but we know it's Maine and we get a lot of wind, and it's starting to get cold early this year. So let's hope we can get that up and running for people this year.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, closing remarks by the select board member? I just want to say how happy I am to finally lifted the Essex Street Bridge up. Where the grate is there, the storm.
Yeah.
That is a major point.
For 50+ years, I've been swerving my vehicle so that my right front tire would not fall into that drain and go boom. And the other day, I didn't have to do that. If you wait long enough, everything will happen. Any other closing remarks?
Just a quick question about when do we expect to hear from, Klein Schmidt folks about their assessment?
6 weeks, I believe, was the timeframe they said from.
Yeah,
So, it'll land in November.
yeah, it's gonna be at the end of November, at the earliest.
We do have an executive session scheduled to discuss the proposal from the Maine Municipal Association to help us with our town manager search. So that is listed as item under executive session. MRSA Title I, Section 405, 6A, to discuss personal matter. Hopefully, I won't take too long because myself is playing tonight.
And it's the World Series.
It's a little strange.
You have to watch the Yankees.
All right, so we need a motion to, thank you, Jane.
Second.
Seconded by Sri. And before getting,
Yeah.
All the judges. My fault, instead of.
Being a, addict.
Oh, man.